Hello and welcome to today's webinar, which is part of the Resilient Kids and Youth Project. My name is Nathan and I'm a part of Outback Futures team, and today I'm chatting with one of our counsellors, Bronwen Healy. Bronwen, I'm so excited to hear about today's topic. What are we talking about?
Today we're talking about 4 ways that parents and carers can thrive.
Nice, fantastic. So tell us why this is important to be addressed in just everyday life for parents.
I think it's important because it's important for people to understand that when we're not caring well for ourselves, we're not caring well for other people. But that also, the flip side of that is that when we are caring well for ourselves, we are caring well for other people. And we need to all remember that kids are watching, they're watching everything, and that we're leading by example. So it helps for us to understand that self-care isn't selfish. In fact, it's the opposite. And that I believe that when we're a better human, it helps us to be a better parent. So when we find ways that help us to be better humans, we end up being better parents. So when we're kinder to ourselves and we connect well with ourselves, it helps us connect well with other people, but especially our kids. And looking after ourselves well helps us to build resilience. It helps us to be people that will, when the pressures of life come and the challenges of life come, the resilience is built up on the inside of us, which helps us to thrive through things that are challenging and also in the good times too.
Yeah, fantastic. Kids are very muchly a sponge to their parents and what happens around them. So it does seem like a very important topic to reach into and help them to understand that it's just seeing our example, I suppose, in the way we live life as well. So I'm excited to keep going into this and to find out more. So can you tell us and those watching at home, what are some practical ways that they can address the issues of self-care and how to, go into looking after themselves?
One of the key ways, or the word that I like to use, is solitude, alone time, creating space in your everyday life that's just for you. And then you've got to guard it. So you create the time and you create the space, whether it's space to breathe, space to pause. It might be when you get home from school drop off. It might be when you get home from work at the end of the day, but building it into your everyday life and making it something that becomes a part of your daily routine. And I know that the thought sometimes for some of us, the thought of adding another thing into our life can be like, what? They're trying to help us thrive, but they're giving me another thing to do. So it might feel hard at first to add something else in, but just keep practicing and understand that the reality is that the more you practice and the more you build it into everyday life, the more it just becomes a part of your everyday reality. I used to call it mummy moments. And I used to be like, okay, I had 3 little kids who are now 3 young adults. And I used to say, mummy's just giving herself a timeout. And I am going to be back in 5 minutes. And when I come back, I'm going to be a better mummy. I promise. And so it was good for me because it helped set a clear and really healthy boundary with the kids that not only am I their mum, but I'm also a person and I've also got my own needs. And so for them to understand that when I was doing that, I was caring well for me, which helped me care well for them.
Yeah, nice.
So
And
very important.
Sorry about that. I just talked over you. How did that go with the kids? How did they respond to you saying, I'm having that time out? Like, what was their reaction initially and how did they improve or what happened?
It was something that I started when they were really young. And so the older that they got, the more they would say, I'm giving myself a timeout as well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. But I think that because it was started to be built in when they were younger, and I've had so many friends just be like, how did you do that? And how did you do that when they were so little? And I was just like, the kids, I needed it, like I was a solo parent. And so I needed this space that was just like, I'm just having, and I literally called them mummy moments, like I need that. And I needed the kids to understand you can knock at the door in the bedroom, but I'm not coming out for another 5 minutes. And I would set myself a timer and I would be like, okay, I'm back and I've caught my breath and I'm going to try and respond in a way that's a little bit kinder to myself, but also to you guys. So I think they saw the benefits of it. And so the more they saw the benefits of it, the more that they were open to it happening.
And how did you feel going into it? Did you feel like you were disengaging with your kids, or did you feel like it was a bit rough or mean initially, or like what was your first thoughts towards it, and did you get it from someone else, or what happened? How did you build that?
It was an idea, like when a kid's done something that's naughty, well, a long time ago when my kids were little, people would put them in timeout. And so
Mm,
it was kind of like my response to that was if I'm going to give them a timeout when they need to think about their behavior and the way that they're responding, then I should probably give myself some sometimes throughout the
yeah.
day as well. And so again, it just kind of got built into our normal everyday life, and they don't know any different. And even now that young adults and they're in relationships, and they'll say to their partners, I am just going to give myself a timeout. So it's just become a part of our everyday life. So yeah,
Nice. And you've normalized that language, so that's fantastic. Um,
absolutely.
you touched on before about the busyness of life, and that this is seemingly could be seen as another task in our everyday living. So how do we get around that idea of I'm so busy? How do I fit this into my life? Am I worth the time and respecting
Mm.
myself to do that? Like, how do we work that into our life?
I think it's that, again, you just touched on, it's about personal worth and valuing ourselves enough to be like, if I'm going to care well for other people, I need to care well for me. If I'm going to be a better parent, I need to be a better human. And
Mm,
so helping people understand, and again, normalizing the language, it's a really good thing to be kind and gentle with yourself, because when you're kind and gentle with yourself, you tend to be kind and gentle with other people. And remember that, yes, it is an add on into everyday life, but it's a positive one. It's a positive add on, and it's an add on that's going to add value, not only to you as a person and therefore to you as a partner, as a spouse, as a parent, just as an everyday member of, society and humanity. It's a really good thing to practice being kind and gentle with ourselves.
And I may be jumping
Yeah.
the gun here, but is watching Netflix or something like that, like scrolling on Instagram, is that a way of us having our time to ourselves, or is there another way we need to incorporate that time for ourselves, that solitude?
I think with solitude, if you think about it, there's 24 hours in a day, and I'm not great with math, but I did work out that that's 1,440 minutes. So if you think about it that way and you think, okay, so really what is 5 or 10 minutes just to myself, alone time, mummy moment, daddy moment, human moment, whatever you need to call it, and whatever you need to tell yourself in your mind that it is, thinking about it that way and going, okay, if there's 1,440 minutes in the day, what is 5 to 10 minutes to myself? And really, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I have time for this, I don't know if I want to add on something, even if it's going to add value, I would say to people, give it a go. Do it
Mm.
every day for a week. Do it every day. They say it takes 21 days to change a habit. Do it every day for 7 days. See how it goes. Do it every day for 21 days and see, not only will you see the change, but your people will see the change.
Yeah, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Think of it as a gift to yourself. And when you get a good gift, you don't want to like pop it in the cupboard and not use it. So, you know,
yeah, cool. That's a good way to look at it there. And so from that, how do we use that gift in different ways for carers and parents to actually thrive into who they're going to be?
so again, it's seeing yourself as someone who's a person of value, seeing yourself as someone who has worth. And again, I'll just, I've got 3 daughters. I'll always repeat myself. If you care well for yourself, you will care well for other people. So if we want to help our people to thrive, then we need to be thriving humans. And alone time and solitude and creating space just to breathe, you know, every day is something, it's a really good life habit. So I think that it's something that is really important.
Yeah, nice. Is there any basic things we need to focus on in our life of just being able to care for ourselves? But is there just the simple things like, I mean, I struggle to sleep. Is there ways that those type of things going to help give our self-care going?
That actually leads into point number 2, where we're talking about caring for ourselves. So again, in that sense, caring well for ourselves helps us care well for other people. So caring well for ourselves will include considering the basics. Am I resting? Am I sleeping? What's my daily water intake? Like, what kind of foods am I putting in my body? And am I moving my body? And am I being still? Am I doing the little alone time moments in every day? And remembering again that the kids are watching everything and
Mm.
we are leading by example. So when we think about those basic things in everyday life, like you've just said, I don't sleep well. So, coming alongside yourself and going, okay, well, maybe I should try these alone time solitude moments and build that into my everyday life and see if those things help. But when you think about, the basics, it can seem really simple. It can seem too simple,
That's
like, am I sleeping? Am I eating? Am I drinking enough water? But when we do those things, it helps us to go a little bit deeper. So I think that it's really important for people to consider the basics and care well for themselves in that way.
Yeah, nice. What would you say for people that may be struggling with finding small parts of the day exciting or to find joy in life? How would you recommend them to try and discover those moments in their life?
That's actually, we keep leading into each other's points. Point number 3 for me was joy. And for me, with joy, you've got to think about, we are all very different creatures. Like, we're all very unique. And what brings you joy might not be what brings me joy. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, and do this and do this and try this and try this. Do something every day that brings you joy. Ask yourself, what might that be? And what might that look like? So I could say for myself, some examples for me. I'm going to pat my dog. I'm going to chat to a friend on the phone. I'm going to sit quietly in my alone time with a cup of tea and maybe a good book. And I'm going to create space that brings my heart joy, because again, it helps me care well for me, which helps me care well for others. And remembering that your personal list is going to be different to mine. And remember that your list will continue to grow. And the more that you connect well to yourself and care well for yourself, the more that you'll look for different things that are like, that brings me joy. Remembering that, I'm not just going to sit here with a list of things and be like, try this, try this, try this. Everybody's different, and what brings everyone joy is going to be different for each other as well. But look for ways that, bring joy. And it's something that you can do with your kids. When you start to change the filter of what you're looking for and you start looking for things, it's easy for us to gripe about the everyday life, right?
Mm.
But if we start to think about, okay, I'm going to reflect on yesterday and what brought me joy yesterday. And that might not be the same thing that brings me joy today, but you know what? I'm going to give it a go. And so remembering that as we walk through life and these kids that we want to thrive are watching us, and we start to change the filter of what we're looking for, and we start looking for things that bring us joy, and we can use that in a way to connect with our kids. It's like you can see something and be like, oh my gosh, I love that bird is so beautiful. Oh my goodness, did you hear the way that bird tweeted? Oh my goodness, smell this coffee. There's different ways that we can start to aliven ourselves and bring ourselves to life, and our kids are watching. And we've just got to hope that we are leading by example in a way that they start also looking for things that bring them joy. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I was just thinking as you were talking about that a way that people may be able to link these two kind of topics of the solitude and then the joy of. So when I spend time to journal or just reflect in my own personal life, I can look at, okay, what have I done the past week? And so I
Mm.
enjoy trail running or cycling and that type of stuff, and so I might bring me back to a memory of being out in the bush running with some mates or something like that. And then it's like, okay, have I done that recently?
Hmm.
And if I haven't done that, why and how has that affected me mentally or socially and emotionally and that type of stuff?
Right.
So yeah, so that's a really good point that I'm just drawing them together, I suppose.
That's great. And if you haven't done it, when can you next do it? Because if you know that it sparks joy and you know that it's something that brings you delight, you know,
Hmm.
then maybe you should look at trying to add that into the calendar as soon as possible.
Yeah, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Um, what other tools or is there other ways that people can use or to find what brings them joy specifically?
Well, I kind of alluded to it before. I like to encourage people to engage their senses. Think about things that bring you joy, and they will help you experience life. So it's not just, oh, there's my coffee, but
Mm.
actually smell the coffee.
Yeah.
Think about touch and sight and hearing and smell and taste, and think about practical ways that those things can bring joy to your life, when you're cooking. And I know that, it's kind of like, well, it's just dinner, right? Because we've
Yeah.
got to do it every day.
Yeah.
But is there a way that dinner can bring you joy?
Yeah.
And so for me, I love the smell of certain herbs cooking, or I love this, I love the smell of garlic personally. So I'm going to add that in, and I'm going to stand there and I'm going to actually experience the smell. And again, for me, it'll go back to patting my dog, but thinking of ways that you can engage your senses. And for me, touch an animal, see a flower, but smell the flower.
Mm.
The good old saying, stop and smell the roses. Listen to the stillness, in the space around you. Listen to the stillness, or find your favorite song and give it a listen. When was the last time you were like, I really love that song? And like you're saying about, trail riding, and it's like, when did I last just be still and listen to that song? And so really finding ways to engage our senses is an easy way for us to bring joy to our lives, and therefore to the people around us.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I was told, I was working with a naturopath, and she was talking about say anxiety and that type of thing, and the idea of playing a song from your past that you really enjoy, and so then
Hmm.
like singing it as well, because then that stimulates through your vocal cords and your vagal nerve, that actually helps to calm the body. So it was cool to kind of go back into old songs that I hadn't sung or hadn't listened to for 5, 10 years. Because then it stimulates good memories and that type of thing as well, to actually make me enjoy the moment a bit more, while I was just driving in the car home from work. Like a mundane task can then turn into something that's a lot better. So yeah, it's kind of
I
cool
love that. I'm going to try that.
yeah, I just think it's really cool. We can weave these things into our life in different ways, and sometimes it's just as simple as we just haven't thought about looking at it at a different way.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
And I
no,
love that what you're saying, it's about weaving these things into everyday life. And even, back to point one, yes, we're giving you something else to try, and you're going to need to add it into life. But when you weave it into your everyday life, and again, remembering that adding it is adding value to your life, then it helps us to be humans that thrive, which again helps us to help the people around us thrive. But I'm definitely going to try that, singing one of my favorite songs out loud, and see if it sparks joy. It might not spark joy for the people around me hearing me sing,
yep.
but it will spark joy in me.
Yeah, even like cooking food, I love turning the music up and just cooking food and that type of stuff, because then it just zones every other worry and care out of the world for me. So
Absolutely. See, dance around the kitchen.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not much of a dancer, let's be honest, but we
Well,
won't go
me
there
neither,
in this
but
conversation.
it could
um,
spark joy in you, though. Give it a try.
that's true. That is true. What's another way parents can and carers can thrive through different channels? Just to kind of wrap up a strong point here,
Mm.
that you would put forward to people.
One of my personal favorites is gratefulness. Living a life of gratitude. And again, it's similar to the joy concept. Looking for things that you can be grateful for every day,
Mhm.
looking for things, and again, even if it's, looking for things to be grateful for throughout the day. Years ago, I started taking photos, and I used to upload them to Facebook and I called it 365 Grateful. And I would just take photos throughout the day. I'd get to the end of the day, and it changed the atmosphere of my heart, because I would reflect back on the day and be like, oh, there was that and that and that. And, some days I would add 8 photos because there
Yeah,
was just so much. And I found that the more that I did it and the more that I practiced it, the more that it wove into my everyday life. And again, we're helping the kids, sitting around the dinner, a shared meal at the end of the day, and just being like, okay, what's one thing that you were grateful for today?
yeah,
And, again, I did this with my kids when they were little, and you'd say, what was one thing that you're grateful for today? And they would end up with, like, on some days it was a struggle. Some days it was a list of 10 different things. And there was this and this and this and this, because you're starting to change the atmosphere of your heart, which helps change the culture of your family.
no, it's nice. And even like eating food around the table, turning off all social media and TVs and that type of stuff,
Mm.
allows us to be grateful for our family, and then be able to reflect on our days and that type of stuff, and kind of help unwind any stresses, even those you might be holding on to a heap of stress. And we're not trying to tell people just to download onto your kids, because that's obviously not a sound thing to do. But just be able to reflect on that gratefulness and have that gratitude, and modeling that for the kids as well.
And connection helps us thrive. We're talking about ways to help parents and carers thrive, and connection helps people thrive. And so if you're using this gratefulness or this joy as ways to connect, you're just going to see it build momentum and eventually, change the culture of your own heart, and therefore your relationships and family. The impact that you have on community changes when you're living with a heart of gratefulness.
I know there's apps out there like Be Real, where you can take a photo of what's happening right now and then send it to your kids or your family or friends. What about people who aren't tech savvy or up in that kind of realm? How would you get them to engage with being grateful or reflecting on joy and having solitude?
I would say I'm old school. I'd grab a pen and paper, grab a journal. Good excuse to start a new journal, a grateful journal, and write it down. And for those of us with smartphones, if you're like, I don't want to get a pen and paper, start a grateful note in your phone, and just, write the date, day one, day one, whatever the day is, and just start. And again, don't be surprised if the list goes from 1 thing to 10 things, the more that you shift the filter of your heart. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I was just thinking then of just like the idea of, and this is definitely not what I would do, I'm more of a journaler, writing things down, but for those who are more arty, maybe a scrapbook or something along those lines, or even taking photos and putting that into a book of, actual physical photos, rather than uploading them for the world to see, because it's not all about showing everyone what's going on in your life, but it's a good way to reflect on yourself and go, okay, today this moment was hard, and I'm putting that in the book with a little photo, and you can write a little blurb maybe next to it, of different ideas of how to, come back to here and now and being present in that realm. So
absolutely, look at us getting crafty and creative.
Oh, it's amazing. Good old craft. I think Mum helped me with that one back in the day. So
it'll be exciting to see the people that are listening, the way that they respond. They're kind of like, hey, I tried this and I tried this and I tried this. Yeah, no,
it would be cool to hear those reflections. Thanks for sharing those great tips. We're coming to the end of the session. So what are some easy ways or easy steps for people to implement these ideas, concepts, to make action of them during the week, this week coming up?
My best response would be start somewhere. Start anywhere. Any of the things that we've said. Think about alone time. Like, have some. Try it. 5 minutes a day. Consider the basics of your own life. What healthy changes can you make that are going to, bring about changes in your life? Think about things that bring you joy. Look for things that bring you joy. Think about things that shift the atmosphere of your heart, and think of things that you have to be grateful for. Just start somewhere, and understand that every step towards caring well for yourself helps you care well for other people. And remember too that, we're living, breathing examples, and the kids are watching. And so the best thing to do is start somewhere. Just start small. Take that one first step and allow it to become a new healthy habit in your life.
Yeah, nice. It's kind of like the NASA comment about, one small step for mankind, but one giant leap for whatever it was. I absolutely ruined it just then. But
I was like, I think it's one small leap. But is it one small step for mankind and a giant leap for, I don't know, but it's that.
Yeah, we're absolutely nailing this. But my thought was more about the ripple effect of like throwing a stone in a pond. And so that's the small start of just doing something. And then the ripples as they're going out just create a bigger and bigger ripple, which means that, our ability to see joy and be grateful in our everyday lives will then ripple on afterwards, after that first initial rock is thrown. So I feel like that's a great little tip. Just start somewhere, start small, and then over time, it's just going to keep snowballing into a bigger and better way of living. So thank you so much for your time, Bronwen.
You're welcome.
For those watching, if you need any more information, feel free to check out the Outback Futures website. So it's just outbackfutures.org.au. We also have Facebook and Instagram, so you can go there to find out more information. We have a resources page, which may give you some information relating to different topics in well-being and health and that type of stuff as well. So thank you so much for your time, Bronwen, and thank you for all the viewers watching. I hope this has been invaluable to you and your time, and feel free to reach out if you need any help. Thank you very much.